Tinder date gone wrong. State Farm executive fired after saying a premium hikes following the California fires were kind of orchestrated. Were they? Weren't they? Let's get into it. Here we go. And of course, State Farm rejected the executive's claims and fired him. I'm kind of curious. What was she using to video this? It does not look like it's at eye level. It looks like the camera is slightly below eye level. Maybe something on her body. I don't know. I mean, does she just have her phone going and kind of aim? It's weird, right? It's weird. Let's watch the video.
It seems like it's all, I don't know, orchestrated.
I mean, it kind of is, but not in the way that you would
Think.
Our people look at this and say, we've got like maybe $5 billion that we're short if something happens. We'll go to the Department of Insurance and say, we're overexposed here. You have to let us catch up our rating. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, because the Department of Insurance and the insurance commissioner is an elected position in Congress. Mm-hmm. He'll say, nah. And we'll say, okay, then we are going to cancel these policies.
So far, everything this guy said kind of makes sense. It's probably accurate. And we've talked about this. There's going to be a big back and forth. State Farm has been saying, all the insurance companies have been saying, hey, California, your insurance, the way that your ability for the insurance companies to justify their fee increases is just, it takes way too long, so many layers of bureaucracy. And of course, you've got elected officials involved in that, right? So there's this back and forth. And so they're basically going through a negotiation right now. Now, this guy's on a Tinder date. He's on a Tinder date. He's trying to get lucky, right? That's his whole goal here. But he's talking continuously about State Farm. I mean, what chick wants to know that other than somebody that, and this guy is claiming that this was a setup. It kind of seems like that because she seems to understand what the deal is and is able to prompt him to keep going. And boy, he's just willing to keep talking about this, right? Say, is he going to get lucky with this kind of conversation? I mean, hey, let's talk about insurance. Oh, are you excited? You all worked up for our Tinder date? If you're not sure what Tinder is, it's it's kind of a dating app. It's more of a see if we can get lucky app, right? Okay, let's keep going.
I have 6 functions that will open underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, exciting.
2 subsidiaries that report.
Oh, get me going.
One's a technology company.
We're out of
and one that's
yeah, it's pretty late in the day.
And an underwriting company or a insurance company.
Okay, so that camera, she is moving her body. That camera is on her body somewhere, right? Yeah. Okay. I mean, could you imagine ladies, could you imagine sitting through a conversation with this guy? He's just completely self-absorbed and, everybody cares about what my job is. Nobody cares. I don't care. And I podcast on it. Whew. All right. Let's keep going. I mean, some part of me on some level does want to kind of know how the date ended up. I mean, was it successful? Was the State Farm talk? Does that just really get her going? Don't know. Former State Farm Vice President Hayden Kilpatrick was fired by the insurance giant this week after he was recorded during a Tinder date. How did they confirm it was a Tinder date? In January, speaking about the company's premium hikes in response to the California wildfires, he was recorded undercover, saying, that's the video footage we saw, saying that the California subsidiary's request for a premium hike rate was kind of orchestrated. All right, but not in the way you would think. Agreed. I mean, I think this is all just back and forth. State Farm wants you to believe that, we're bleeding out billions of dollars here, which they are. But how desperate are they? Is their parent company, State Farm Auto, going to kick in billions of dollars? Probably. So they need their partners, which is, basically state of California insurance, commission to give them premium increases so that they can immediately put some money in their coffers and start covering this stuff. Because what if they have another one of these events? Interesting. So yeah, here's the crux of it that we heard him say. Our people look at this and say, shit, we've got maybe $5 billion that we're short if something happens. We'll go to the Department of Insurance and say, we're overexposed here. You have to let us catch up our rates. Now, what that's in reference to is that all of these insurance companies are really far behind in raising their rates to what the cost of actual rebuild and everything else in California is. And they've instead been just going out and canceling policies, because it's easier to do that. And they don't want the exposure because this is a known wildfire area, right? We're overexposed here. You have to let us catch up our rates. He'll say, nah, and we'll say, okay, then we're going to cancel these policies. So it's that back and forth negotiation, right? And what you've got going on right now is State Farm has said we need a 22% increase. And the insurance commissioner has said, okay, we're going to have a hearing on April 8th, 2025, and we're going to let you explain to us exactly the mechanics and the financials that are requiring of us to give you the 22% rate increase. So bottom line here is everybody's insurance rates are just going to go through the roof. I mean, they're just going to go up. It's inevitable. It's inevitable, right? Because when this kind of stuff happens, well, it's like when a lot of shoplifting happens and the stores got to kind of increase their prices. Do they ever go down? No, always up. And when you have mass casualties like this, losses, then that's what's going to happen. He added that there should never be houses built in the first place in areas like the Pacific Palisades, given the fire risk, saying that residents want natural areas around them for the ego, but the area is an effing desert, and so it dries out, and it's a tinderbox, and they didn't fill the water reservoir, and their mayor was in Ghana, and their governor was planning his podcast. All those things. I don't know if you caught it, but Oklahoma City, where my parents live, they had some massive fires, 144,000 acres burned this past weekend. They had 300 houses, I think, went down. A lot of acreage fires, so just wasn't, going after the homes. But you don't hear about it being an absolute disaster because their mayor wasn't in Ghana. And their governor wasn't, it's their fault. It's the county's fault. They didn't play that game. They got Kansas and somebody else to help them out, and they just took care of business. Oklahoma just took care of business because it's Republican run, period. And you've got Democrat policies here, and insurance companies are like, yeah, we don't want a deal. And I don't blame them. So, and the reason State Farm is always in the headlines is because it's the biggest insurance carrier and it's one of the few remaining. Everybody else is, boop, we're out, we're done. State Farm asked for a 22% homeowner insurance premium hike. State Farm General, the subsidiary in California's top insurer, had filed for an emergency 22% rate hike for its homeowner policies. Needs to get a little cash in there. It's saying that its reserves are getting low, citing the wildfires and a $5 billion drop in surplus accounts in the past decade. Claims to have paid $1.26 for every dollar in premium collected, and explained that it has just over $1 billion in surplus to handle another catastrophe. So they're looking to the consumer, hey, if you want to play ball with us, give us that rate hike. Company executive told Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara that if the rate hikes weren't approved, the company may have to take actions that we otherwise don't want to take, meaning, boop, we're out. Although I don't know how that works. I mean, the whole insurance game, it's kind of wiki-whack, isn't it? I mean, you've got the state fair plan, but that is just really minimal coverage for really expensive premiums. Whereas what State Farm is providing is more adequate coverage, but it's private and they can basically tell you to go screw off if they don't like the location of your home. Whereas the fair plan It's set up by the state. Bottom line is, I think there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on here. There just is. This is insurance. This is California. This is, you got mismanagement. You've got, governmental mismanagement. You name it. You got a catastrophe. I mean, is any of the cleanup, is much of the cleanup happening? Kilpatrick claims the date was a setup. It certainly appears to be, because if this gentleman, who's a high-level executive at State Farm, if he knew he was being recorded, I don't really think he would be sharing these details. But he felt like these details, they were gonna pay out at the end of the night, if you know what I mean. The LA Times reported that Kilpatrick, who worked for the insurer's innovation and venture capitalist segment, so he's not even mainline insurance, is he? No. He claims that he was fired due to the recording, which was published by the O'Keefe Media Group. That's who we saw the video from. Former vice president detailed his remarks were recorded during a Tinder date in January. He believes it was a setup. State Farm released a statement in response to the video release, stating, the individual in the video is no longer associated with State Farm, and his assertions are inaccurate and in no way represent the views of State Farm. I believe they probably do, and that's why he was fired. If, they were straight up probably truth. Hey, this is the way this game goes, and I've talked about the way that game goes many times and said, this is what's happening. So it's a negotiation thing, right? So now we've got the whole April 8th thing. Going to have a little commission hearing, and hey, you can come and tell us your sob story, and we'll decide whether, what happens. The state's going to cave. The state is going to cave. They're going to do some kind of little Mickey Mouse. All right. But here's the deal. This is what we want from you. They do not reflect, let's continue with this though. They do not reflect our position regarding the victims of this tragedy, the commitment we have demonstrated to the people of California, or our hiring practices across the company. He also talked about not hiring white people at State Farm. Yeah. No more white people. Don't want to hire white people. Yeah, we're not doing that. I mean, this guy was, he was on a mission on this date. I don't know what kind of mission, but the insurer, State Farm, told Fox Business that this person was never involved in or had any responsibility for business decisions related to State Farm General or its California operations. Yeah, but he worked for him and he understands kind of the general mechanisms and including anything to do with our pending rate applications and the emergency interim rate request. Doesn't take a genius to figure this out, right? I mean, you had a wildfire, you had a company. You know what I would go back to is they do not reflect our position regarding the victims of this tragedy, the commitment we have demonstrated to the people of California. You mean pulling all those policies? I think you pulled out 1,600 in Pacific Palisades alone. You've been jerking back those policies because, you don't want to insure because it's a loser. Because this is going to happen. These fires have happened multiple times. This is not a 1 in 100 year event, right? It's going to happen. Here's what that looks like. Here's the devastation. And because of the way California regulates their insurance industry, they make it so difficult for the insurance companies to basically get what they need or what they want that the insurance companies say, nope, we're out. And they've done that consistently to the point where you've got a whole bunch of people that have no insurance. And it's just going to be a cluster to see how LA gets rebuilt. But this is the ongoing concern, is that what if there's another fire? Oh man, could you imagine? I can. State Farm can too. And that's why they're basically going, we need some more money here. Otherwise, we're out. We're done. So let's just cover that April 8th hearing a little bit. State Farm, the state's largest insurer with roughly 1 million home insurance policies in Cali, said the emergency rate would help the company rebuild its capital. Destroyed more than 16,000 buildings in the LA fires. Companies trying to prevent a dire financial situation that executives said could push homeowners into the state's last resort insurance option because they're just pulling out left and right. California Commissioner Ricardo Laura said that other California insurers won't be able to absorb State Farm's customers because there's nobody left that's big enough to do what State Farm's doing. if the insurance giant stops doing business in California, but that he wanted more data on how the company manages its finances and calculates risks. You just had a massive fire blow through LA. Do you really need to understand what the mechanics are here? He asked the company to present its argument publicly on April 8th to a judge, who will then give a proposed decision. Laura will then make a final decision. Imagine if he says no, and we're not going to play ball. Yeah, you guys, no rate hike. No rate hike. State Farm just, we're out. I don't think they can do that, though. I mean, the mechanisms, it gets pretty wonky, right? State Farm claims it's committed to its California customers and aims to restore financial stability. I don't really think so. They're an insurance company. They are there to mitigate their risk. That's the whole thing. Who is it that has the Amica? Is it Amica? Empathy is our best policy. You're like, you are so full of crap. You're an insurance company. You're an insurance company. You play the odds. You're a professional gambler. Is it going to burn in this area? Is it going to flood in this area? Is hurricane damage prevalent in this area? Could that happen? Let's see. Let's look at the little chart. Oh, yep. Okay. Laura will then make a final decision. The facts will be revealed in an open, transparent hearing. Anytime I hear open and transparent hearing, I think it's because it's not going to be an open and transparent hearing, but we want to do a lot of talk. A lot of talky talk about nothing. Laura also called on the company to request a $500 million capital infusion from its parent company to help stabilize its finances in a private meeting this week, according to transcript of the meeting. So you've got the insurance commissioner telling the insurance company how to run its own business. Hey, you don't have enough in reserves? Why don't you ask State Farm Auto? I mean, that's literally what they're doing. Some wild stuff. What will happen? Well, we'll have to see. It's going to be a few weeks from now when that happens. Guaranteed, the state gives them their increase. And you know what? There's going to be more increases after this because this is just the beginning. And then what's going to stop all the other little companies that are left with what few policies that are out there besides State Farm and the FAIR plan? What's going to prevent them from just jacking their rates up as well? And that's if you can get an insurance policy underwritten by anybody, because the risks are too high. It was just an absolute cluster with these fires, right? Stay tuned. I'll be covering all that in the future. Thanks again for being here. I'm done on this one. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.